All right, welcome to Aria Weekly Enablement. As I mentioned, we are doing VMware Aria Operations, what's new in Q1 23. So, like I said, full topic, use the Q&A, and I'll pass it over to Sujata.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, folks, for those who are joining us live and those who may be catching us on recording. Yes, we will need all of the 2 hours and more. It is a jam-packed release for us. You've heard the name Aria since fall of last year, and this is the delivery of that. Aria Operations is not just merely a rename or a rebrand. As me and my product management colleagues here present all the capabilities and the work that's gone in the past quarters, you will see that it's more than just a rebrand. It's a new way of doing things. All of the capabilities that were already there, we are simplifying it, bringing in a solution-centric view. You already were seeing a lot of the simplification and use case-based workflows in the product. We are amplifying that messaging so that you can get value out of the product right away and faster outcomes using our product. So with that, let me start off by sharing this screen that talks a little bit about, if I can move, I've been having trouble. Let's see. All right. So this is to say how we are bringing about that evolution of the solution-centric views and all the pieces and parts coming together to provide that unified multi-cloud operations using Aria Operations. On the leftmost stack, you'll see all the stack that we are able to manage, starting from your physical infrastructure, the network, the platform, containers, and applications. While each of the clouds is not called out, that little bubble there with the physical infra and networking includes your various types of clouds, be it the private cloud, the different VMware clouds, it's probably your cloud providers providing you the service. All of those are included in that. And more what you'll see is in the product, us bringing together the metrics, config, logs and events, and flows and traces. Today, flows and traces is done through integration with Aria Operations for Network and Aria Operations for Apps. But you will see the tight integration within Aria Operations so that you're not having to go to multiple different products and services to manage your environment, but can use it using Aria Operations. And you will see the additional new pillar that we are starting to amplify, that's sustainability. Over the past few quarters, we've been releasing some capabilities, but we want to tell you that this is something that we are starting to see a lot of our customers adopt, and we've been enhancing the capabilities here so that you can manage your environment and do the right things for sustainability as well. With that, let me give you this eye chart of all the things that's gone into this release. This is specifically calling out what's available in the SaaS offering. We have a similar slide that also shows you what's available in on-prem. The on-prem version has everything that's in here and the things that were shipped out in the Jan update of the SaaS offering. So the large themes that we are having is continuing to give you that control plane for your VMware cloud and a lot of workflow-based simplifications. And I'll talk to you about some exciting things that's happening there that really should help you to get value out of the product much faster and get your outcomes much faster. There's a lot of platform modernization that's gone in. Our team will talk to you about that. And content and integration enhancements. There have been some of these integrations already present in the product, but we want to share with you the deeper integrations we are doing so that you are able to get the value, not just from one solution, but these solutions coming together. I won't talk about every single bullet point here, but we will cover it throughout the rest of our time together. But this is that one slider that you can have so that it talks about everything that's coming into this release. Let me talk to you about the simplifications that we are doing. Our biggest focus on the product simplification and integrations is to provide more and more solution-centric, use case-based workflows. Aria Operations is able to do a lot of things for you, but some of the things that we've heard back from our customers and users is, it's a lot. Can you help me to do those things? And that's exactly what we're doing. We've been working on this, and the brand new thing that you'll see as soon as you log into this product now is this thing called the Launchpad. This replaces what you used to see as a quick start page in vRealize Operations. As you come into Aria Operations, you will see this new look and this new Launchpad that truly gives you a one place where you can come and see all of the capabilities that's available to you from Aria Operations. So we've categorized it in different ways to help you to get started. You'll see those pillars of operations right up there. As I said, we are introducing sustainability as well. So it's right there in your fingertips as you get started. And that entire stack that I showed earlier on the left stack that you saw is now represented in this UI. So you can get started with wherever you are in your cloud journey, and be aware that there are other things that's available to you as you adopt multi-cloud within your own environments. I'll double click on one of it, and when you get your hands on this, you'll be able to play and check it out, and do give us feedback on this. One of the things that we want to see is, let me pick capacity as a use case. Say you're doing capacity management, and there's a lot of things that Aria Operations can provide. So when you click on that capacity tile, it brings you to the capacity management homepage that then tells you all the capabilities that's available to you within capacity management. So if you're focused on reclaiming, you have a ton of sprawl, you want to go back, start reclaiming, you can click on the learn more, and it will tell you everything about it. What is that about? How do you get started? And step-by-step instructions. And you can go to the documentation from there. You can go to tutorials from there. So within the application, there's more information on how can you get started with any of these use cases. So this is a thing that you will see right away as you log into the product, and it will be coming soon, as in tomorrow is when it's getting released on-prem, and that's why you see the banner coming soon. So it's our release is happening tomorrow, and this will be one of the first things that you see in the product. And the other one that we want to tell you is the multi-cloud visualization. Now, Aria Operations has been able to manage your various clouds for you, but there was not a single place where you could go and see your entire landscape. And what do you have? What is a high-level summary of what's happening with your clouds? And this addresses that problem. And so you will have all of the clouds in one page, and then you can select your cloud of choice and start drilling down. First get a summary, and then start drilling down into each of them. Now, if it's a cloud that you don't have, you click on the card, it'll tell you what it is about, and it'll tell you how you can get started with configuring to that cloud and then starting to manage it. Another thing that we've brought together is this big piece of logs and operations. Again, the much tighter integration, we already had it, but now it's much tighter. I'm going to switch it over to my colleague Shivam to talk to you more about this.
Okay. Hi, am I audible?
Yep. Yes, you are.
Thank you. Okay, let me go back to the screen. Just a moment. Can someone switch the slide back? I'm not able to do it. The previous slide. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Sujata, for setting the stage. Hello, everyone. My name is Shivam, and I'll be talking about the new native experience of logs within VMware Aria Operations. So having a unified view of metrics, logs, and events is critical for effective monitoring and troubleshooting of IT infrastructure and applications. As we all know that metrics provide real-time performance data, logs capture detailed information on those system events, and the events provide notification on critical changes. By combining these data sources, you can gain a comprehensive understanding of system behavior and quickly identify the root cause of the issue, which ultimately leads to increased efficiency and improved system performance. So keeping that in mind, we have added the new capabilities for logs in VMware Aria Operations that makes troubleshooting even easier. So if I showcase it over here, so we have added a bunch of features. For example, there is a timeline for better correlation of the logs with the events, right? Additionally, you can add different filters, which can be added with different and or conditions, which enables you to drill down into right set of data that you are looking for. So this is how you can correlate the data, log data with the trend and get to your root cause earlier. For on-premise users, there was an iframe integration between Aria Operations and Aria Operations for logs, which created some security issues and didn't provide a unified view of metrics, logs, and events. With this release, you won't face any of these challenges, as you'll see a native integration where logs are provided as an integral capability. Moreover, you'll be able to configure a log widget on the dashboard in the Aria Operations on-premises, similar to what you can do on the SaaS. Finally, you'll see the same experience across all the log screens, be it log analysis under troubleshooting section, logs tab in the object browser, or the log widget in the dashboard. The same log experience will be consistent and seamless across all the logs screens. Let me take you to the demo. Galina, can you stop sharing for a minute so that I can share? Thank you. Okay, so as I was talking earlier, right? So on the VMware Aria Operations, you can go to troubleshooting under log analysis, and you can see all this new rich capabilities where you'll be able to see the log trends, and you can even expand the logs, which helps you figure out, okay, what are the different metadata that are associated with these logs, which can help you in drilling down further. You can use these fields in adding the filters over here. For example, if I want to filter by the host name, I want to see like what are the logs that are getting created for this particular host. I can drill down further, and this will only show the logs that are associated with this host name. I can also add multiple and or conditions, which helps me drill down even further, which helps in the troubleshooting as well. So these are the rich capabilities that have been added over here. The use case that I would want to show here is, for example, let's say, for example, I got an alert that my Apache web server is showing some slowness, right? I can take a look at the alert. Okay, this alert got generated. I can take a look at the metrics as well, which shows that there was a spike in the CPU and the memory and in the storage latency. If I go to the log section over here, I can see a spike over here. This is exactly the same time period when the alert got triggered. So if I expand the logs, I can see some GET requests are getting created for Apache server. And there can be multiple reasons why these so many requests are getting created. It could be someone is attacking your system, or someone is scraping your Apache web server website. So you can take a look and identify whether this is a valid source or this is an invalid source. Depending on that, you can take a follow-up action. For the security reason, you can shut down that server, or for the escaping purposes, you can increase the CPU capacity for this particular server as well. If you go to, if I switch gear to dashboard, the same thing can be added in the dashboard as well. So if this is a custom dashboard that I created where I can select the data center, cluster, and host. And if I drill down further for the particular VM, I can see that there is a CPU demand spiked up around the same time. And if I scroll down, I can see the logs also spiked at the same time. So this helps you in all the monitoring and the troubleshooting scenarios. The other thing that finally I want to conclude is, on the alerts also, you can see, if you click on an alert, for example, So for example, if you click on alert, you can see that there are alert details. And if you expand this option, you can take a look at the troubleshoot with logs. So it will take you to the troubleshooting workbench and you can troubleshoot there as well. So all in all, we have covered all the scenarios which can be used for performance and monitoring for the troubleshooting perspective. And we'll be happy to get your feedback on this one. So with this, I'll hand over to the next speaker, Meera.
Thanks, Shiva. Green, are you sharing? Okay. So we have been working on unifying metrics, logs, and traces for easier troubleshooting. And with that, we have launched an integration with Aria Operations for Applications. So there's a new management pack available called the Aria Operations Management Pack for Aria Operations for Applications. So with this, what customers can do is to have their Kubernetes environments, if they're already being monitored by Aria Operations for Applications, this data can be pulled back into Aria Operations. So you have a single plane where you can view the Kubernetes constructs, map it back to the infrastructure on which it's running. So the idea is to have the platform teams work along with their DevOps teams so that they can troubleshoot issues faster. There are cross-launch capabilities. So if you see an issue in the infrastructure where the Kubernetes environment is running, you can cross-launch into Aria Operations for Applications, drill down into the metrics or traces, and isolate whether an issue is in the application itself or whether the underlying infrastructure that hosts your Kubernetes is contributing to that problem. Next slide, please. All right. So here's a quick overview. There was already an enablement session held for this a couple of days ago, and it's a very detailed one with a demo of how you can use both products together. And here are just a quick set of highlights on what you can see with this integration. So with this, you can see Kubernetes, any Kubernetes distribution that has been deployed on vSphere as well as Amazon EKS. So you can see all the key constructs of Kubernetes and the resources that are being monitored with Aria Operations for Applications. So those are your clusters, nodes, namespaces, and pods. So you can see the end-to-end relationships from the pod right down to either your VM on which the Kubernetes node is running, or it can even show you the EC2 instance on which your EKS node is running. And then if an alert is generated in Aria Operations for Applications, those will also be mapped in their respective resources. And with these objects, you can also have an option to cross-launch into Aria Operations for Applications. You do have some dashboards as well with which you can try to isolate issues. It shows you the underlying infra and critical metrics and KPI associated with it. So I'll not be running a separate demo. Yeah, let me hand this over to Lakshmi.
Hey, Meera, thank you. So
hey,
this is...
I'll take it over.
Okay, Sajjan.
Then you can go ahead. So before I get into the VCF operations, one of the questions which was asked and I accidentally clicked the answer live. So I want to address that before I get into this. So I think this question was raised by Keith. For MC, we've just shown it. Is that a new dashboard? Yes, it is. But it is a page. It's not a dashboard, but it's a built-in start page. And or the MPs for GCVE, yeah, it is all built in and it is available for both on-premises and SaaS. Hope that helps. So I'm covering this VCF operations and a couple of slides around this for Navneet. Unfortunately, he's not well. So if you have any further questions on this, the PM to reach out is Navneeta. With the VCF operations, the main idea here is bringing it all together and monitor the health of the VCF management applications. For that includes the SDDC apps, the vSender, Visa, and NSXT, and the VCF apps includes SDDC Manager, LCM vRealize app. And the whole idea is, hey, understand the health across the 5 dimensions. If you see from an app reachability point, and I can show you with this 5 dimensions as you see on the screen. The first one, the management application reachability, and it gives the status whether it is reachable or not. And the next is look at the service availability. It gives an idea of which are the services available and which are the ones which is down. And similar to that, appliance VM availability provides, and the password status and the certificate status too. Right. This is the password availability. And that concludes of what is the capability on this health of VCF. There is additional content that is the proactive alerts and the dashboards. The prerequisite for having this is you need to make sure the VCF management pack is installed and the VMware infrastructure health management pack and Aria Ops on-premises version 8.12 onwards for the on-premises. I can also along with this, so there is in the cost main page, there is a cost overview, and now there is a direct tab added for the VMware Cloud Foundation, the VCF, where you will be able to see the total cost of ownership and the potential savings and realized savings. So there is not much different. This is already available for different clouds. And now we are making it available for the VCF operations for you to get the high-level summary. With this, I will hand it over to Karthik. You're going to talk about NSX.
Sure. Galina, can you please stop sharing? These are old slides. I hope you can see my screen.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. In the latest release, we have done several improvements to the NSX management pack. First one is from the Launchpad, which Jata talked about. You can launch the new dashboard, which is an inventory equivalent of vSphere inventory dashboard, which covers the overall NSX infrastructure, entities, and objects and its relationship, and a quick summary on all the objects. And as you click on the respective NSXT, and this tile changes and gives a quick summary of that particular entity. And we have done several enhancements to the traversal spec, which will help us in the various upcoming activities, like more dashboards. And then we introduce a new object called NSXT World, which will help customers to create alerts, even more custom dashboards, and so on. And there was a multiple requests from the customers to have a ability to exclude certain objects from monitoring because they don't want it, and then it's impacting the performance. So we have provided that option in the UI. In the integrations settings page, we can exclude the resources and services from monitoring. And another big enhancement we've done is the alerting part. So there was a request from customers since they use Aria Operations as a single pane of glass for all the alerts, and as they integrate with the automation tool, ServiceNow ticketing, and also Trap Explorer, where they use centralized for ticketing. And with that, we added the ability to import all the alerts from NSXT. By default, it is disabled. You can go to the integrations page and enable it. And once we do that, and it will start importing all the alerts from NSXT. Yeah, with that, I'll hand it over.
Okay, so looks like that's me. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Galina and Karthik. So in this April update, we have simplified onboarding for monitoring of GCVE cloud with a dedicated cloud account in Aria Operations. So we have simplified the onboarding process by auto-discovering all of the private clouds that you may have within GCVE and presenting those private clouds to the Aria Operations administrator so that they can easily configure the underlying components for monitoring within Aria Operations. So, what is the problem that we are trying to solve here? The problem is that as of today, right, you have to go in and configure the individual vCenter, vSAN, and NSXT adapters that belong to an SDDC or a private cloud. That's what the terminology within GCVE individually, and you wouldn't know which vCenter belongs to which private cloud, and it complicates the management and monitoring of GCVE. So that's the reason we have simplified the onboarding process for GCVE. So let's go through quickly about what is GCVE and who will be benefiting it. Of course, the GCVE customers are going to benefit with this update. And so what is GCVE? GCVE, basically, it stands for Google Cloud VMware Engine, and it brings VMware's enterprise class software-defined data center stack. When I say software-defined data center stack, it is vSphere, vSAN, NSX, and also HCX to the Google Cloud platform. On the right side that you see here, this is Google Cloud. On the left side, this is customer on-premises data center. And as you can see, both the underlying components, they are exactly the same. vSphere, storage, network, vSphere, vSAN, NSX, they are the same. The underlying VCF component. And, but the only thing is, it's available on Google Cloud. With it being available on Google Cloud, right, it has got native access to the Google Cloud native services such as the Kubernetes engine, maybe some database service, so on and so forth, right? That's another benefit. So now that I know what is GCVE, how do I purchase it? Who is going to sell it to me? It is sold by Google and its partners, and it's also sold by VMware and its partners as part of VMware Cloud Universal. If you don't know what is VMware Cloud Universal, it's a subscription program with some credits that you can apply towards your digital transformation to the multi-cloud, to any cloud that you can use. So now that I know, okay, who is selling it, and if I buy it, the next question is, who is actually operating it? And then who is going to support it? It's going to be fully operated and supported by Google. But of course, if there are major issues that they cannot solve because it's all VMware software, they are going to reach out to VMware and get our help. And now that I know who is operating and supporting, the next question is, so what mode, how do I buy it? Like, whether it is on demand or whether it is a subscription or whether it is a perpetual license. So it is a subscription based. Of course, we are talking about cloud, and it is available in on demand, 1 year or 3 year reserved instance of flexible consumption, right? So GCVE, it's available in 15 Google Cloud regions, and it's expanding rapidly. The green circles that you see, it's already available as of today. The one that you see in orange circle, they are planned and they are coming up. So these are the use cases of GCVE. This is very similar to any other VMware cloud. So I will not get into deeper discussion with it, right? So now that we know what is GCVE, how do I, as a customer, how do I purchase it, who is selling it, and who is operating it, and who is supporting it? The next question is, how do I manage and monitor once I start using GCVE? So I create the virtual machines within GCVE, and I understand that the hosts and all other things are managed by Google, but the rest, the virtual machines themselves that I create, how do I actually go about managing and monitoring? And also, how do I see if the hosts that are being managed by Google Cloud are functioning the way they should, all those things. So this is where we have simplified the onboarding process with a dedicated cloud account. And when you log into Aria Operations, you will be able to see the dedicated cloud account tile. And within it, you have to provide the credentials to be able to monitor GCVE. And within the credentials, we need to know what is the project ID within Google that you have deployed the GCVE resources, so that we can connect to that project and then collect data about it. And we will also need to know the service account JSON. What is a service account? A service account is an account that is mainly used for communication between two different applications, right? So I will get to it a little bit more when we do the demonstration. And we will also need CSP refresh token. A CSP refresh token, it's from within VMware, and it is optional, and it is mainly used to collect GCVE bills. And it's going to work only if you have purchased GCVE from VMware. Okay. So once we configure the account, Aria Operations goes ahead and discovers all the objects that are out there within GCVE. And once it has discovered it, how do I know all the objects that have been discovered by Aria Operations? For that, we have an object browser within Aria Operation. And within the object browser, you can go ahead and navigate into the GCVE object hierarchy. We have a dedicated parent space, or the parent tree, for the GCVE objects, and using which you can navigate and figure out what are all the private clouds you have, what are all the projects that you have configured for monitoring within Aria Operations. And you can also see the configuration maximums that are out there at the individual object levels. Okay, so in addition to the rate card costing, we also retrieve bills for GCVE. So these bills are only available, like I said, if you have purchased GCVE through VMware Cloud Universal Contract Subscription Program. So once you have that, we will be able to use those bills to populate data in the cost overview page, wherein we show you the total cost of ownership by how much compute capacity remaining, how much have you used. So how the TCO is broken down by capacity and by private clouds. And we will also show the potential savings and realized savings distributions. And in addition to that, there is a dashboard that is dedicated to the cost overview, which mainly uses the bills, and you can see the trend of your outstanding expenses and also the monthly expense trend. Okay, with that, I will get to the demonstration.
So as
Let me know once you are able to see my screen.
Sorry, go ahead, Lakshmi. I see you there, but let me quickly say, there was a question on whether we do similar things for OCVS. We do. There's everything that you see out there is supported. And over the various releases, we've been simplifying the configurations. And as Lakshmi is talking about GCVE this time, just be aware for OCVS as well. We have similar support for each of these different VMC hyperscalers. There are some nuances in the differences, and our documentation covers it very, very well. Go ahead, Lakshmi.
Okay, thank you, Sujata. So I have now logged into Aria Operations. Let's take a quick look at how do I go ahead and quickly add a GCVE account for monitoring. So let me navigate to integrations. And within integrations, let me go to repository. Yeah, before I even go ahead and add an account, let's see what is included in the content for GCVE. If I click view content, you can see that there are 8 dashboards that are available within GCVE. I can use these dashboards to gain additional insights into GCVE once I start deploying my resources within GCVE. I need to know the inventory. I need to know the configuration maximums. I need to know how they have been configured. And I also need to know what's the current capacity and also the planning for capacity, right? In addition to that, we also have some alerts that are predefined. And these alerts are the ones that are for the configuration maximums. If I am exceeding or if I am at the supported configuration maximum, an alert is being sent out. And to support these alert definitions, we have some symptom definitions that goes along with it and a recommendation. And we also have inventory trees, and we will get to these a little bit later. So what are those inventory trees and how do you navigate to figure out more details about your inventory? Okay, now let me go into accounts. In this environment, we have already set up 2 accounts for GCVE. Let me bring up any one of them. It doesn't matter. So here within account, okay, there is project ID. So how do I know which project ID I need to use? The project ID that we need to use comes from GCVE or Google Cloud. And also within the credential, let me just click on edit credential. And you will see we need to provide service account JSON and then CSP API token. So let's quickly take a look within Google Cloud. How do we get these information, right? Without this, we cannot configure this account for monitoring within Aria Operations. So let me log into GCVE. So once I am within GCVE, let me navigate to the corresponding project that we are using here, GCVE BCOM2. And within this, you can see I have connected to IAM service. And within IAM service, we need to create a service account. This is the one that we were talking about earlier. So go ahead, click service account and name it. This is for Aria Operations. And then create and continue. So there are various roles that are available, right? But what is that is needed for Aria Operations to work? Minimal permissions. It is viewer role. All we need is a viewer role within GCVE to be able to connect and retrieve data from GCVE and start monitoring. So, and then click done. So now that the account has been created, if you noticed, it's not just the service account. We need service account JSON. So how do I get that? You can get that by going into, this is the one that we created, Aria Operations Enablement, Actions, Manage Keys, and then within keys, you can add a new key, create key, and there are two key types. Please select JSON and then click create. Okay, so you can download this JSON file and then copy the contents of this JSON file and populate it within the credentials field right here. Right, that is the first step that you would do. And the project ID, how do you identify the project ID? This is the project ID that should map to the project ID that you configure within Aria Operations GCVE credentials. So Aria Operations, once you provide all this information, it auto discovers all the private clouds that are out there that you have configured within this particular project, right? So in this case, there is only one, and we have configured this for monitoring. So underneath this private cloud, like I said, private cloud is nothing but an SDDC. Underneath this private cloud, we have vCenter, vSAN, NSXT, and Service Discovery. They are all grouped together. So for the vCenter credential, so how do I know what is the credential of vCenter? How do I get this information from GCVE? For this, let's navigate back to GCVE. And like I told you earlier, GCVE is available as a service within Google Cloud. So just like IAM and admin is one of the service, just like that, GCVE is also another service that's available within Google Cloud. So let me click on that hamburger menu, click maybe more products, and within here, VMware Engine. This is where we have to go. So within this VMware Engine, I can see all the private clouds that are out there within this project. And let me click on this private cloud because we need to get credentials for vCenter NSX. So all I have to do is click key details in here. So I can get the username and copy the password and use the same under the vCenter credentials right here, right? So we will also have to, the recommendation is to deploy cloud proxy within each of the private clouds within a GCVE. So once you deploy a cloud proxy within GCVE, how can you make sure that that cloud proxy can reach out to Aria Operations SaaS or maybe Aria Operations on-prem? So how do you make sure that it can do that? For that, you can go into network policies. And within network policies, you can configure the policies such that the VMware workloads can communicate back into Aria Operations SaaS. You can also make advanced configuration. For that, please refer to the GCVE documentation. So now that we know how to get the credentials and we go ahead and populate all that in here. Even for NSXT, you can get the credentials in a similar manner that I showed you for vCenter, and then you save the private cloud. Once you do that, Aria Operations starts discovering all the objects that are out there and then starts monitoring and collecting data. So once it has data, we can navigate to Environment, Object Browser, and you will see a dedicated parent tree structure for GCVE. So within here, you can navigate into GCVE hosts and clusters. And in here, let me pick this particular private cloud. So one tip for all of you, maybe you already know, So within an object browser, when you click on an object, if you hover over any object, you will be also able to see the type of the object. If you are wondering, okay, I don't see the type, what it is, I don't know. So all you have to do is hover over the object at the top, and you'll be able to see what type of object it is. So it's a private cloud. And at this level, we have configuration maximums. I can see all the configuration maximums right here. And we can also get to the metrics tab and take a look at the available metrics that are out there within Aria Operations, and also properties. So these things, you can use it in your dashboard and views that you create. So now with the April update, with the Launchpad feature, originally we had everything based on pillars of operations. Now we also have a dedicated tile for each of the applications, infrastructure, and as well as VMware clouds as well. How cool is that? For VMware Cloud, we have a dedicated tile, GCVE. If I want to see anything about GCVE, all I have to do from the Launchpad, which is the home page for Aria Operations, click on GCVE tile, and I get to see. So this is from going into the account, which is dedicated page, which has all the things that you are supposed to be doing for GCVE within it. From here, I can navigate to operations overview, and I get to see, you can see that when I click on the operations overview, it has auto-selected GCVE. So there are 2 accounts that have been configured, how many virtual machines have been discovered, what is the TCO, what are the potential savings, and then the capacity, all those things, capacity remaining, time, cost. I get an overall overview, and also I get to see the map. This is awesome. If you think about it, where are the private clouds located, right? Overall, with all combined 2 accounts, I can see, okay, there is one in United States of America. Where is it? It's in Los Angeles. See, we also provide you a nice map so that you can manage your environment better. So now let me go back to the Launchpad here again within GCVE. So you can also go into the total cost of ownership. Once again, it's very similar functionality, just like the multi-cloud overview. GCVE gets automatically selected, and I get to see the total cost of ownership, potential savings, and realized savings, right? And let me go back to the Launchpad again. And I can also see the compliance. So now that I am already running my environment in GCVE, right? I know that hosts are managed by Google Cloud, so I am not responsible for it. So I don't have to worry about the compliance of the host. Let me click on one of the particular configuration guide here. I see that 66 out of 66 is non-compliant. And I can also see when I look at the object breakdown, it's only the virtual machines. There is nothing for the hosts or maybe other type of objects that are out there within VMware world, right? That's mainly because the customer is mainly concerned about only the virtual machine and not the host and other things. So I can take a look at all these alerts and then take actions, right? And similar to the compliance, the right sizing also works the way that you are already used to, right sizing the VMs for optimal performance and capacity. And you can also use the workload placement for GCVE. You can set operational intent and business intent. And in addition to that, you can also run the what if analysis. I have pre-created one of the scenarios in order to save some time. Let me go ahead, click edit. And if you have some projects that you want to migrate from on-prem to GCVE, right? So maybe it's a project AI that you are developing that you want to migrate, and you select the instance type and populate all the information and hit run scenario, and it would tell you how many hosts you will need within GCVE and what is the total cost. And you can also see what are the various other options that are available. And as you can imagine, pay as you go is going to be the most expensive option. Okay, now, once again, let me go back to the Launchpad because it's so nice. So within the Launchpad here, I have access to all of the dashboards right from here, all the ones that I really care about. For example, if I want to take a look at the inventory of GCVE, I click on inventory, and it will open up the GCVE inventory dashboard. And I get to see the list of private clouds that are out there, the cluster inventory, data store inventory, vSphere hosts, and virtual machine inventory. Likewise, there are other dashboards as well. And you can also see the configuration maximums as well. And if you are at a place wherein you need to take some action, and also you will see configuration maximum alerts in addition to displaying what are the current configuration maximum limits. So with that, I would hand it over to Soumya.
Thanks, Lakshmi. Galina, can we switch over to the slides, please? Yes. Thank you. Hello, everybody. We have been listening so far on all the exciting new features. Now let's see what we have covered under the ease of use category or the product simplifications. So getting started on two things here. There are two ease of use enhancements related to what if scenarios. One is the ability to run outdated scenarios, and second is the ability to run custom profiles in what if scenarios. So a scenario is considered outdated if its start date is in the past or when both start and end dates are in the past. So today you cannot run an outdated scenario until you manually edit the scenario and update or adjust the start date. So when a user needs to run same scenarios frequently for planning, this manual updation becomes a hassle, especially when we want to run multiple scenarios at once. So we have added a new capability to automatically pick the current date as the start date whenever you wish to reuse an outdated scenario. And two things to note here. If both start and end dates are outdated, you still cannot run the scenario. And second, we do not update the end date. So we only go about auto setting the start date to current date. So if there is a need for you to update the end date, you still need to do it manually. So that is about the ability to run outdated scenarios. Next slide, please. Now, talking about the ability to import custom profiles. With this feature, we are providing users the ability to create and configure a what-if scenario by importing custom profiles, which is very similar to importing VMs. Today, a user can manually input these configuration details or select some existing VMs to specify the configurations. Some of our users want the ability to use the already defined custom profiles to run a what-if scenario. So let's say, for example, if a user wants to use 30 large VMs or 100 small VMs, he can just select the corresponding custom profiles to run the what-if scenario. And yet again, a point to note here, a limit is set here as well. We have a limit of 100 today in order to limit the number of custom profiles that you go about selecting. Functionally, everything remains the same for all of the VMs, just like for that of the VMs. Next slide, please.
Now, yet another topic under the ease of use category is for managing the alerts noise. So as part of this release, we undertook an extensive study of vCenter alerts, and we have identified those alerts which created more noise in customers' environment. So as a team, we performed an extensive analysis and we have identified these alerts that will be deactivated out of the box. So when we talk about what is this deactivation, it really means that these alerts will still remain as part of the library of alerts, but will not trigger unless you enable them on definite resources. Basically, you need to go about enabling them within a particular policy against particular set of assets that you want to run against, and include that as part of the policy or as part of a custom profile. And then you can go about running these, enabling these set of alerts automatically. That will start evaluating those resources and will start triggering alerts on those alert sets, on those resources only. So if we talk about why we did this, is because of the very simple reason that you focus on those resources and you focus on those alerts which are really critical to you, and you experience reduced alert noise in your environment, and you are more efficient and effective in order to, while resolving any triggered set of alerts, right? And having said that, yeah, this is the list of, yes, please move on to the next slide. So this is the list of out-of-the-box alerts that we have deactivated. There is an exclusive KB article that talks about these alerts and how you can go about leveraging custom groups capability to re-enable these needed alerts on the required assets. And on top of that, we will continue to work on reducing alert noise in your environment. And we want to focus on those alerts that are really important to you. And we'll make sure that in the next releases, we'll ensure that more alert noise is reduced in your environments, and it becomes more efficient in order to manage the set of alerts that you're witnessing. Having said that, let me hand it over to the next speaker.
Hey, Galina, can you move a couple of slides back? I think we... Hey, thanks, Galina. Right. In the next, so in Aria Operations, we have the ability to share the dashboards. With this release, we are making a slight enhancement which can have greater user impact. Is when you share, the receiving person can edit the dashboard. So there is an option while you're sharing, allow editing, that will allow the person to edit the dashboard. I think this will really help a lot of customers, and this was one of the ask in the request as well. Let's go to the next slide. Already we had this webhook plugin, and there were authentication mechanism. The current available was the basic authentication, and a lot of the endpoints, for example, the major endpoint they service now, they are saying that, demanding that hey, basic authentication doesn't suffice. We need to move into the advanced authentication. And with this release, there is support for all these different type of advanced authentication, along with the basic authentications, right? Bearer token, certificates, API key, or so all of this going to be supported from this release onwards. With this, Shivam.
Hey, thanks, Arjun. Hi again, everyone. Continuing on the ease of use theme. So in the previous versions of Aria Operations, users had to navigate various menus and interfaces to access the tools for integration and automation. However, with the latest release, we are introducing a dedicated place called Developer Center, which provides a centralized location for accessing all the available tools. This feature not only simplifies the process of finding and using these tools, but also promotes greater visibility and accessibility of Aria operations integration and automation capabilities. The Developer Center serves as a central hub for all these resources, including APIs, Power CLI, Management Pack Builder, Integration SDK, and community-created content. Each listed card provides detailed information about the specific tool, making it easier for users to identify and use the resources that are relevant to their needs. Just a note here, Power CLI, Management Pack Builder, and Integration SDK are available only in on-premises right now. With this, I will hand it over to Meera.
Thank you, Shivam. So here is one of the features we have been waiting to show you, and that is the ability to use metrics and conditions on these metrics to search for objects. This is to help you troubleshoot faster by looking for patterns that may be occurring in your environment. You might want to see if certain, let's say, VMs are behaving in a certain way, VMs that are running on a specific host or a cluster, for example. So with this new capability, you have the ability to search for metrics using conditions. You can use properties, and you'll get a list of objects. You can create anything from a simple query all the way to adding more and more conditions. There is a 300 character limit, or you can use 5 metrics, whichever one ends sooner. And what you also get is an autocomplete option. So as you start typing, Aria Operations will suggest what you could type next and then help you build that. So there are also syntax checks available. So you know when you are at the right point that you can execute that query. So there's a new look for search results. So you can get a list of all the objects that meet your criteria. We show up to 200 results at a time. And then you can deep dive. You can either go into that object, you can do some roll-ups, do some transformations on those metrics as you're investigating an issue that could be occurring in the environment. And you can also launch the troubleshooting workbench from there on. In addition, you can also filter those search results. So if you have a lot of them, you just want to look for certain ranges, for example, or only try to narrow down those objects that belong to a specific ancestor, you can do that as well. So I'll show you that through a quick demo. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Meera.
All right. So when you click on this, the global search now, you'll see this new option called a metric. For our demo, I'm going to use some very simple options. So I'm going to start searching for a virtual machine. So you can see that there are some suggestions coming. I was playing around with this environment before, so it's listed down my last 5 searches. So you can either click or continue to type. So I'm going to put a where condition here, and I'm going to use CPU usage because it's easy for me. And I'm going to put a rather low number just for our demo. And now it says that, okay, the query is all ready to execute. So I'm going to hit that. Okay. Hey, the demo gods decided not to smile on me right now. Okay, so let me take out one of my old queries and see if that gives me something here. All right, what you would see here is what you saw on the screenshot in the deck there. You would see a list of objects here which met the condition, and it gives me the nodes. I'm sorry, the graphs. So I can go into the troubleshooting workbench right from here if I wanted to, and then continue troubleshooting that specific object that I might be interested in. There it is. So here's what it would look like. I can even go into the object itself. So if I found that my CPU usage looks a bit suspicious and I want to investigate additional metrics, I can just go into the object and continue whatever stream. So instead of having to search for each object at a time on search, you can just get the list that you wanted. In addition, what you can do, you can see some options. Like I said, you can refine this further by trying to use some roll-ups. So in this case, if I wanted some sort of an hourly roll-up that I want to see the minimum CPU usage, I can do that. You can see that coming up. So let me just go back to none. And then you can see some options to filter. So if you wanted to narrow down your search results, you can do that. It even shows you the ranges. So you'll see up to 5 ranges. So right from the minimum all the way to maximum that it found. Then in addition, if you have less than 200 objects on which to search on, you can do something that called transformation. So where you can enhance these conditions to look for, let's say, for example, what it does by default is to look whether the current value of the CPU usage is greater than 5 in this case. But if you wanted to check if the minimum CPU usage is more than 5, you can apply that here as well. And by default, it checks for the last 24 hours. You can change this timeline too, if you so wish to. So let me take just one last example with 2 metrics. So I'm going to quickly paste this here. And oops, there's a syntax error, it's warning me. And you can see it has pulled up both metrics. I've used an OR condition. So anytime it sees one of these conditions, it will pull that up. And what you can even do is if you added a third metric at a time, it will show 2. And you can use this little icon here to toggle between them. And similarly, you can see your ranges for both your CPU and memory, since I pulled up 2 metrics, and do your drill downs as well. And that's it for this demo. All right, I'll hand it over to Soumya for the next topic.
Thank you, Meera. So I'll share my own screen. Is that okay, Galina? I have the deck open.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Second. Just a second. Let me know when my screen share comes through.
Yes, it is here. But yeah,
it's open.
If you can
Yes.
switch to the, yeah.
Yep. Can you all see my screen? Okay, perfect. So talking about cost analysis, I'll just quickly set up some background. So cost, as many of us may be aware, is the second largest expense after salaries for most of the IT companies. And owing to the current market conditions, a lot of those companies are going on the defense strategy, which means that trying to get more visibility into cost, trying to optimize the cost, and so on and so forth. So a lot of those personas, be it FinOps persona or even IT Ops persona, which is slightly looking at cost these days, are very concerned about how is it that I manage cost. Now, talking about cost management in general, it works in 3 parts. One is understanding and managing your cost, which is visualizing, analyzing, and optimizing, which I'll just talk about. Another could be planning for cost, that I have new projects coming in, or people are coming into the company, or I have budgets, or I need to plan for migration, etc. And the next one could be an optional use case wherein they have their own finance model and want to charge back using rate cards or their service providers, and want to bill their tenants basis that. Now, talking about the first story, which is understanding and managing the cloud cost, this again works in 3 parts. First is I want visibility into my cloud cost. Another is I want to analyze the cloud cost and then optimize. So talking about visibility, the first question they ask is, give me a sense of my cost, which is the cost overview page that we launched about a year and a half ago. And if the cost seems off to them, they can go to cost drivers, edit the cost drivers, or overload the cost drivers with additional maintenance, labor, etc., charges. Once they've done that, they look at the TCO, they're like, okay, my cost seems high. What do? I want to deep dive into that cost and see where this is coming from. What are the top 10 VMs in terms of total cost of ownership within this data center, or how does my R&D cost center compare against finance cost center, compare against customer services cost center, etc. Doing that, I also want to inform my line of businesses that, okay, here is what we're paying for your IT operations, LOB by LOB. And then, of course, I want to be able to save on costs or avoid costs using potential savings and see as to whether or not I have done enough through realized savings. Now, within this workflow, all the capabilities are available out of the box, barring cost analysis. Now, it can be done through dashboards and views, which seemed a little convoluted, which is why we went ahead and built a capability to carry out cost analysis. Now, how is it that we do cost analysis? We do it, first of all, we do it for all the key cost metrics, which is total cost of ownership, projected cost, month-to-date cost, potential savings, realized savings. We do it for price metrics, and wherever we have bills available, we do it for bills as well. Now, typically what you try to do here is you get a list-based analysis, or you get a comparison-based analysis. And when I say that, I mean that I can quickly put in some parameters that I want to analyze total cost for all the VMs under this data center for the current month, and it will give me a list of the top 10 VMs or top 20, 30, whatever I want to see. Or I can say that within this data center, I want to compare these 4 or 5 VMs. Alongside VMs, we have a lot of integrations within VR Ops as well. We are integrated with Cloud Health, so we get NPC cost data as well. We are integrated with Horizon. We get Horizon object cost data as well. We are integrated with VCD, so we get VCD price data. And of course, we have metrics available for business cost metrics and price metrics available for business applications as well. For that also, we can carry out cost analysis. And in addition to that, there is something that we've done in this release, which is costing for cost and price metrics for custom groups. So a lot of you may know that for custom groups, we do not publish cost and price metrics because there are disparate objects and the metrics names might be difficult. We've actually generated an algorithm to be able to calculate custom groups cost on the go, so that a customer does not have to create convoluted super metrics, which might at times, even double calculate some of those costs as well. So this is basically the capability that we built. You can export the analysis in a PDF. The analysis is basically a graph or a table. You can also save the analysis so that you don't have to put in those filters again and again. I'll quickly jump onto the demo to show as to what those capabilities look like. Yeah, so if I go here, I go to cost analysis, analyze. I can provide it a name. I can say that, okay, within this one, I want to compare virtual machines within data center, say, for example, this data center, and run the analysis. So this gives me top 10 virtual machines in terms of total cost of ownership for this given data center. Now, this is available in a graph and a tabular format. I can also compare certain virtual machines. So I'm like, okay, these are fine, but I want to look at some particular virtual machines within this data center. I look at 3 or 4 of them. I'll do this. Now, this is both exportable in a PDF so that you can look at it offline, share it with your management, etc., etc. You can also save this analysis, give it a name, and it will be available in the saved analysis as well, and you can quickly launch it. So this will give you the databases, the current values of the metrics. So this is available. I can also show it to you for, say, for example, Horizon as well. So I have a Horizon instance also available. I mean, Horizon integrated instance also available. Allow it a second. So I could give it a name, and then I can select a Horizon object, for example, VDI pool, current month, and I can select the scope that I want to do it within this one and run. So if I have any VDI pools available, I'm sorry, there's no. Second. So if there is any objects available over here, it'll give me the data for Horizon as well. Similarly, I can do it for business applications. So for example, I come here, I want to run it for business applications. I can come here, I can type business applications. Now you don't have to select a scope for business applications because it's generic. You'll get top 10 business applications. So there are only 5 in this instance. So you get top 5 business applications in this case. In terms of total cost of ownership, you can also compare certain ones that you want to do it for. Similarly, you can do it for AWS regions, services, accounts, for Azure, for GCP, for everything that is under vSphere, and so on and so forth. All those will be available in the documentation itself. So you have a set of objects that are supported, a set of adapters that are supported, and all the objects within that for cost, price, and bills as well. So that's all on cost analysis, and I'll stop sharing and hand it over to the next speaker.
Hey everyone. Okay, so the first topic from my side is about Telegraph agent installation. As you know, Telegraph agent is used for application and virtual machine and different objects monitoring in Aria Operations. Currently, we have 3 flows for installing Telegraph agents, depending on the level of monitoring we want to achieve. And different use cases that our customers might have. And so far it was needed, and we had like 3 scripts that customers need to manage in order to use for different types of installation for the Telegraph agent. We have these 3 scripts are used for different use cases, and we call them currently managed, unmanaged, and open source. That brings also a lot of confusion to customers to understand which script on which use case to be used. So what we did is to simplify the user experience here with first consolidating the scripts in one single script and changing the names, giving a new names of different types of agents that are more meaningful and easier for customers to understand. So we currently will have only one script for all the different flows, and agent type will be provided as install parameter for this script, so that we have also a really great documentation in the command line, so the customers can get information on the parameters they should use, depending on the type of the agent they have. We also provided a token-based approach instead of only username and password for all the agent types. This could be SaaS refresh token or on-prem VMware Ops authentication token. And as I mentioned, we provided a new names of the agents. First one is product managed agent. This is the agent that we are packaging with the product, and we are configuring it. It's mostly used for operation system and also basic services monitoring. The second one, we call it user managed agent. This is the agent that we provide for installation to the user, but they should configure it by their own depending on the applications and objects they want to monitor. This is mostly used for physical host. And also open source agent, that is the agent used for advanced monitoring. And typically our customers are downloading from Influx site and they're configuring by their own. There is a recording of a demo that we can put in the notes, so you can pay attention at it later on and see how it actually works. But this is just a simple command line script that you provide the parameters, and that's just it. The next topic is from this ease of use section is providing more flexibility in the automation central when we schedule a delete snapshot action. Currently, it is kind of hard-coded thing. So you just have the snapshot age that you can choose, and it's not flexible enough for our users that want to choose specific snapshot by name and size to be deleted from the automation central scheduled job. So based on many requests from customers, we added also this capability in automation central. And third area that I want to talk about today for ease of use is simplifying the user experience for collector groups and cloud proxies. As you know, collector groups, cloud proxies are used for application monitoring for the data collection. So that they can be also grouped by in a collector groups, so that the user can enable high availability for a collector group, and then he or she can use individual cloud proxy as an active and master node. And then if there is a failover, the other node will take over on the failure. So we've done some improvements here because cloud proxies and collector groups were kind of really detached in the user interface, and it was really hard for the users to go and back and forth to configure all this. So to simplify that, what we have done is to move collector groups in a new tab in the data sources page next to the cloud proxy, so we can easily switch between both of them once we want to combine cloud proxies in a collector group. Also, we added some columns in the grid so that the users can easily filter and sort the collector groups or individual cloud proxies. Also, we made consistent the editing and viewing the details for cloud proxy and collector groups, details in the right side of the screen. So if you click on the collector group or cloud proxy, you see all the details on the right, and you will be also able to rename the cloud proxy or edit some details directly from the grid. Also, you know, there are different actions that you can take on the cloud proxy or collector group, like edit data persistence. Also, you can reconfigure your collector group depending on the details changing or something else. So we provided showing only the actions that are only applicable for a specific cloud proxy or for a collector group in the actions menu, and also in the actions menu on the top and an actions menu on the selecting individual object. We added also additional statuses for the high availability collector group configuration, so that the customer will know what is the status of the high availability, so that they can easily troubleshoot when there is a failure. When a collector group change is initiated or is in progress, then a retry of the configuration of the group or editing is not allowed. It was allowed previously, and it was bringing a lot of confusion and troubleshooting issues when somebody go and start retrying or editing the group while it is in progress. Some changes initiated, and it was creating really hard to troubleshoot situation. And also we added quick access to cloud proxy and collector groups through links in the grid. So if you have a cloud proxy that is part of collector group, you can easily go from the grid and see the cloud proxy details. And also we added validation for reassigning cloud proxy that are already assigned to a collector group or to other collector groups. So you can't just pick cloud proxy that is part of another group and assign to the current that you want to, because it already is added in another group, or you cannot add it, the cloud proxy one more to the group, because it is already there. These validations were not existing before. So now we added the validation, and also we are showing to the user messages that are showing that it's not allowed anymore. There is also a demo on this, recording on demo on this, that we can also share like a separate note, and you can take a look. That's all from my side. Handing over to Sajan.
Yeah, Galina, I'll take over. I'll share my screen.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, stop
Yeah,
sharing.
can you stop sharing? Yeah. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, Prabir.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll be talking about platform modernization, two topics basically. One related to cloud proxy and remote collectors. Thanks, Galina, for explaining the new enhancement with respect to cloud proxies, remote collectors. When it comes to platform modernization, just one thing that we did with respect to cloud proxies was now you can access suite APIs through cloud proxies. Earlier, this functionality was available only for remote collectors. From this release onwards, through cloud proxies also, suite APIs can be accessed so that customers will get help in their automation. Right. With that being said, I'll jump over to the next platform modernization topic, that is enhanced WLP algorithm. So as a part of this, we have two enhancements, allocation model support and network compatibility, right? So what are the pain points that led to this? So the full flow was not supported on data center if they are not in the same network. If the optimization candidate clusters are not in the same network, the day-to operations movement of VMs was getting blocked. So and the present scenario, destination network cannot be selected before starting the action. And that was a major concern for JPMC. And when it came to allocation model, that was not considered in regular workload placement. And compute clusters at time became over allocated as allocation model was currently not supported. And due to this, even after the initial placement was smooth, it used to become unstable for most of the scenarios. So features needed where WLP must have a parameter for target network as a criterion, and support for workload placement required. So as a part of that change, because most of the customers have VCF plus NSX deployment, the problem was that in NSX, most of the segment IDs appear to be same. Though they are different networks, it was very difficult to figure out first that how do we distinguish between the networks. Hence, we had to introduce two properties. So the properties where we introduced at the distributed port groups level, one is segment path and one was logical switch UID. With these two properties, we are able to distinguish that yes, one network varied from the other, and then these two properties we gave it to the APIs in order to move the VMs, right? And Then we introduce the policy setting in the default policy for WLP, where if customers knew that their target cluster for WLP is on a separate network, they have to come and enable the policy. In case they do not enable this policy, WLP day 2 operations work as it is, as used to work before, right? This is just a network aware WLP enhancement. In case they don't enable this setting, WLP will work the same way as it used to work before this enhancement. Now, how do I enable allocation model step by step? So if you see in the first screenshot, we have the demand, but allocation is not activated yet. So I go to my policy and click on capacity. And in capacity, the first one, cluster compute source, I give my resources. Please note that now we have the feature of considering powered off VMs as well. If someone wants to consider powered off VMs in their WLP calculation, they just have to activate this setting, right? Now, then we come to data store and then activate the allocation model at the data store level and the data store cluster level. Remember that once all the ratios are enabled, we must save that. We must save the policies for this to get enabled, the allocation model to take effect in WLP. So once we do that, what happens? So before enabling our allocation model, as we can see, allocation not activated. And after that, we can see with respect to allocation, what are the CPU memory workloads when we enable the setting from the policy setting. So with both demand and allocation being considered now, the new look WLP both smarter and better than before. So I'll have a small demo to show. I'll start with the allocation model enablement first, right? So as you can see, the 3 clusters in this allocation model is currently not activated. So in order to activate them, we go to configure, policies, as I just showed in the slide deck, edit the default policy, go to capacity, and give our resources, give out the ratios for cluster compute source, CPU, memory, and disk space. Voila. And if I want to consider powered off VMs, activate that as well. And data store, I give my ratios. Data store cluster, I give my ratios. And I save the settings. Once I save it, I come back to the capacity and check everything, because these 3 settings at times you have to save it individually. So please double check them once before moving to WLP. Now when I go to WLP, I see both the demand and allocation for all the 3 clusters. So for the purpose of demo, we over allocated the cluster 3, where the allocation is showing as 192%. Now we click on optimize now. So when we optimize, we see that the cluster 3 has over allocation of CPU, right? And the before and after scenarios, that will happen after the optimized placement is done, right? So when we click on next, it will show the reason as well. So if you can see, this reduced imbalance on CPU demand is one of the reasons, and reduced current stress on CPU allocation, right? So with that, we begin the action. And there's a task ID that is assigned, which we can see from our administration recent tasks that it's starting. We go back to the vCenter and see the relocation has started, and the task here, the status is in progress. Right. Right, I'll just skip a bit so that to make it faster, because we are running out of time for other speakers. Okay. So now it is completed. So that status changes to completed in the recent tasks. I go back to my WLP and see now it is balanced. right? So the 191% over allocation has come back to 92, and the WLP was able to cater to both the demand and allocation model and balance the CPU and memory workloads, right? That's on the allocation model support in WLP. My second short demo will deal with the network aware WLP enhancement. So we have 6 VMs for this demo, and for the demo purpose, we have intentionally made sure that we violated the tags of the VMs. You know, the Mac VMs we have tagged as Windows, the Windows we have tagged as Linux, and so that there is a when the movement happens, there's a reason for violating the fixed tags. So as you can see, the segment ID is the same, right? So it appears as if they are on the same network, thanks to NSX deployment, but actually they are not, right? And the differentiator in that case becomes the segment path and the logical switch ID. For this enhancement, we had to introduce these two properties because we saw that in distributed port groups, if these two properties we introduce, we can then pass them as parameters to the vMotion APIs. So the segment path as well as those IDs we will send now. So this demo will show if we do not enable the policy, what happens at the start, and then what happens after enabling the policy, right? Yeah. So yeah. So sorry, I'll just go back a bit. Yeah. So now when I click on optimize, by default the policy is enabled. I'll disable it, right? And then save. And now all the clusters are in different networks. I am not enabling the policy, and we will try and do the optimization, which will basically fix the tags, right? So when we optimize now, right, and say next. So the reason we can see is the fixed tag violation, right? That is intentionally done for the demo purpose. And we click on begin action. So it says rebalancing, and a task ID will be assigned after this, which we can track status in the recent tasks. So we go back and we see in vCenter that the relocation has started. But now what we see that all the vMotion fails. Even the status of the optimization changes to failed. And the reason being that it's a cross network and the vMotion could not understand which network to relocate to, and hence the vMotion could not happen. So now we come back and enable the network mapping, which will basically send to the API both the properties that I mentioned, logical, segment path and logical switch UID. By enabling this, we will again do the optimize now. I'll skip a bit, same thing, begin action, the same drill, rebalancing, get a new ID on here, it's in progress, and the vMotion starts again. And now it goes through. All are successfully completed. And the task status changed to completed. Even in vCenter, we see that all the VMs, even if they belong to different segment IDs, they are back to the same segment IDs, but with the tags fixed. And that ends the demo. So over to the next speaker, I guess Tony for the content. Tony, you there?
Yep, sorry, I had myself double muted there.
Yeah.
Galina, if you could go ahead and share.
Yeah, sure, I'll do. Just give me a second.
Sure. All right. So coming up in the next release, we are releasing a update to the management pack builder, the 1.1. Included in that is going to be improved user interface improvements. We're also adding custom content, which allows dashboards, alerts, and super metrics to be added. We're also improving the way we handle data. Actually, looks like this might be an old slide, Galina. Do you want to go ahead and stop sharing, and then I'll share mine?
Yeah, sorry.
Give me a second to pull it up here. All right. So you'll notice one thing to point out here, that this MP builder currently only supports on-prem only. As I was stating, we do have an improved user face. We are doing more of an edit guided design. So rather than previously where you pass through step by step in a single page, this you edit your resources and save it. It's a little easier flow to understand. We also, like I said, add custom content for dashboards and super metrics. We have improved data handling with multi-parameter chain calling. What this means is that you call one request and then you chain it with the next one based off of your previous request. And then we also added the ability to do metrics and property categories so that your metrics fall within the category that is necessary. For more information, there is a community website that will be available. I will go ahead and post that to the chat. Somehow it got removed from here. It was here earlier, so I'll go ahead and add that to the chat, and then provide that. That community webpage has the ability to download the distribution. It also has links to YouTube videos that should walk you through each one of these features, and then has the links to documentation as well. Next will be the Horizon Management Pack.
Sure. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, so in Horizon Management Pack, we've made a few changes. First of all, we have launched support for Horizon 2212, which is, okay, I'll share my screen.
Oh.
One second.
Yep.
Okay. Let me know when the screen share comes through.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So first off, we've launched support for the latest version of Horizon, which is 2212. So basically, Horizon Management Pack is now compatible with the new version of Horizon. Another is we are supporting cost and price metrics for all the Horizon objects, which is VDI pool, RDS farm, VDI desktop session, app session, RDS host and user. And then we've also created a lot of new content basis customer feedback. So we have performance availability and capacity details available in some of the new dashboards for connection servers, networking, compute capacity, and storage capacity. Alongside, we're also starting to support multiple connection certificates starting this release. So earlier it used to be only one single get connection URL. Now it is get connection URLs. So you have a support for multiple certificates. And the management pack has been renamed to Aria Operations Management Pack for Horizon instead of vRealize Operations, which is the rebranding effort that has gone into everything else. And the short form is going to be VMware Horizon Adapter. I'll quickly get into the demo and show you where the cost metrics will be available. So I'll start with this one. So I'll not cover all the objects. I'll probably just cover Horizon VDI pool. So you see here is where the price metric is available under summary, which is where you find all the price metrics within the Aria Ops. And then you have some of the cost metrics as well. So you have monthly total cost, monthly projected cost, monthly average cost, and likewise average daily cost, daily total cost, etc. Alongside that, we have some of the dashboards. So I'll probably show Horizon Connection Servers dashboard. We have a lot of other dashboards as well, but basically covering similar set of metrics. So you have performance metrics, health metrics, alerts, KPIs, etc. All of these available in the dashboard for connection server as well. I'll probably cover Horizon Networking dashboard as well. Just allow it a second. Yeah, so you have a Horizon Networking dashboard as well that has these details available. So you have data center KPI, user details, connect users, all of these network performance trend, route performance trend, all of these details are also available in this dashboard. You have connection server route latency, everything that the customer needs to be looking for in case of Horizon Networking is available in this dashboard. Yeah, so that's it on Horizon 2.6 for this release. We're working on a lot of other improvements, which you'll see in the subsequent releases. Thank you. So next, I think, is Meera.
Yeah, thanks. Let me share my screen. All right. So we have a new version of the management pack for Kubernetes that is coming out. And with that, we have support for the newer releases of Kubernetes as well as Tanzu Kubernetes and Red Hat OpenShift. You can see these are the incremental validations and certifications that we have done for the full range of all the versions that is supported by the management pack. You can refer to the release notes and the documentation. What we've added is custom summary pages for these objects. So you can see these are the quick dashboards with which you can get a summary of, let's say, a cluster or a namespace, for example, and then you can drill down further if you want to. So previously, we could monitor the control plane of a Kubernetes cluster. While we had node monitoring, the control plane node monitoring by default, the specific control plane components like the API server or the scheduler, these had to be set up as custom metrics. Now these are available right out of the box for you, and this will help in easier troubleshooting. So if there are issues in your cluster, you can check whether there are some problems on the control plane. For example, the scheduler might not be able to schedule requests, or the API server may be getting too many requests. There might be too much latency, which is what is causing issues in the cluster. So all of these will be available out of the box. And then we have now introduced storage metrics at the Kubernetes node level. And there are new out-of-the-box dashboards available. There are two for inventory, with which you can look at inventory of your Kubernetes environment from an infrastructure perspective or from an application perspective. And when I say application, it means namespaces, which is typically where your workloads are deployed. Then there's also a new dashboard for performance, and I'll show you that with a quick demo. So is my screen visible?
Yep, Mira.
Okay, all right. So let me take you to one of the clusters. So here's an example of the new summary page that I was mentioning. So you can see there's a summary of what you can see in the cluster alerts. We have picked out some key metrics that you can go through, and then you can decide whether you want to drill down into a specific node in that cluster. So here, I'm going to drill down to a cluster a little bit to show you the control plane component metrics. So if I expand, this is my control plane right here. And most of these services are running as pods, so you can see. So for example, I have the API server right here. And you can see there's now a section for your API server metrics. So if I just open it down so you can check. So there are too many errors compared to the number of requests that you're getting on the API server. It could mean that your application is getting affected because the API server is not able to do its job well. Next up, here are the dashboards. So let me show you the application inventory. So this dashboard gives you a quick view of what's there. So there are tons of namespaces in this environment, which is why I see it like this. And it tells you that there are 289 namespaces that we are monitoring, the deployment services, how many pods we are currently monitoring right now. And you can scroll down and look at the list of namespaces that are there, and you can see the distribution of pods by requests and the limits that have been set. So that if you have some best practices that you want to follow, or that there are established practices like making sure that your pods have memory limits set, you can check whether there are any with 0, which could mean that that it can contribute to issues if there is a lot of memory demand by applications running in those pods. There's a similar dashboard for the infrastructure as well, where you can see the same view, but you can see the nodes and then drill down from there on. The next up, we have an application performance, which shows you a very high level overview and helps you drill down to performance for your Kubernetes environment. So it tells you how many, what you're monitoring right now. You can get into a cluster. I don't have any problematic clusters right now. So what you would typically see is, this is what is the capacity and the limit of the cluster that you have selected. And there's nothing much going on this cluster right now, which is why you see usage. So if you see any issues in your cluster, they would light up in red, yellow, or green. And then you can drill down further into the namespaces, all the way down to the pods. And that's it for the demo on the new management pack for Kubernetes. I'll now hand it over to Lakshmi for the FedRAMP updates.
Thank you, Mira. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So FedRAMP. So what is FedRAMP? FedRAMP stands for Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program. FedRAMP is a government-wide program that promotes the adoption of secure cloud services across the federal government by providing a standardized approach to the security and risk assessment for the cloud technologies. So FedRAMP is not applicable to the on-prem software. It's only applicable to the software that is on SaaS, software as a service in cloud. Yeah, specifically cloud technologies. So to all the folks who engage with the government cluster customers, we have good news for you. vRealize Operations went live in GovCloud on April 10th with IL4 or FedRAMP High authorization. The Aria Operations rebranding effort that is going on, once that is also done, that would also be going live with IL4 and FedRAMP High authorization. So within the FedRAMP, there are different classification levels, and that is based on different market segments that the government agencies operate in. So within FedRAMP, if you take a look at it, there are three basic categories. One is the civilian, the other one is Department of Defense, the third one is intelligence community. Depending on the market segment, the number of controls that each and every cloud technology has to pass increases, right? The higher the requirement. So for example, you don't need to be using a sledgehammer to crack a nut in the civilian category, right? That is why even with FedRAMP High, there are only 421 controls, whereas with a Department of Defense High or the IL5, you have a total of 431 controls that you need to pass. And with intelligence community top secret, you need to pass 1,000 controls. So with Aria Operations, we are at IL4 or FedRAMP High authorization. So it's not just enough that the product Aria Operations itself is FedRAMP compliant. It has to be able to monitor something which is also a FedRAMP compliant, and that is VMware Cloud on AWS GovCloud endpoints can be monitored from within Aria Operations Cloud or Aria Operations SaaS. You should be able to now monitor it. So basically, you would be seeing the same account tile for VMC on AWS. Once you select the tile within the account, you will see two environment values in the environment field. If you have a government cloud, so you have to select VMware Government Cloud. But by default, it defaults to commercial cloud environment. So if you have a government agency who has subscribed to VMware Cloud on AWS GovCloud, they have to come in to Aria Operations if they want to manage VMC on AWS GovCloud, and then select this tile. And the important thing is that within the environment, they need to change it to the government cloud to be able to manage and monitor it. As many of you know, we had already announced in 2022 a support for monitoring of VMC on AWS GovCloud from Aria Operations on-prem. But with this release, we are also able to monitor the GovCloud endpoint from Aria Operations SaaS, right? And previously, we had some limitations, or you had to do some workarounds by editing certain configuration files within the adapters. Those things you no longer have to do it, and even the restart of Cloud Proxy does not require a re-edit of those adapter configuration files. So we have a fully simplified administration and maintenance of VMC on AWS GovCloud endpoint. So from now on, there will be more focus towards management and monitoring of various GovCloud endpoints so that customers can leverage Aria Operations SaaS in GovCloud to monitor their GovCloud endpoints. With that, Meera, can you please talk about the native public cloud support?
Yes. So we already had support for AWS GovCloud in the previous releases, but to select services or regions that were specific to GovCloud, all of these were listed within the same dropdown. So we have introduced an enhancement where, as you can see, when you have a new section called the GovCloud regions, the account type, where you can select whether you want to set up a commercial account or a GovCloud account. And based on that, the services and regions will reflect the respective services or regions, depending on whether you have selected a GovCloud or whether you have selected a commercial account. And then you can proceed just as you were doing your AWS account setup as before. And that's the enhancement we have for GovCloud as far as the native public cloud is concerned. I will now hand it over to Sajan to continue.
All right, so this is the last section. What is new for 8.12, which is going to be released tomorrow. We have discussed most of these items in the session. I just want to call out the 8.12 release consists of last 3 cloud updates. And the ones which we haven't discussed in this session is highlighted as big stars, like support for Visa and ESA, which have been talked about in our last enablement. And then we have sustainable operations green score, monitoring multiple Aria automation instance. This is something which is specific to only for on-prem, right? It's VRA on-prem and the Aria Ops. The Aria automation and the Aria Ops, and specific to the on-prem. The next is the data persistence and cloud proxies and the high availability for application monitoring. Again, these were in the last cloud update, not the current one, the previous one, and we had given the enablement for that. And on the content enhancements, Tony already spoke about the MP builder, and this is only available in on-prem as of, and there's DK beta that is also only available on the on-prem. And with this, I want to call out that and in 8.12, what the content available on the cloud is on par for the on-prem. All of them are available. There is no gap. Earlier, there used to be like, we make the on-prem release, but the cloud will have more features and so and so. Here it is more with Aria Operations. It's both have the same content with few exceptions. That's it. With that, I really thank you. Thank you everyone for attending this session.
Thank you to all of our presenters. I know we had a very packed schedule today. This will be posted on Insider TV, and we'll share it out in the newsletter as well. So thank you everyone for joining, and thanks to all of our presenters.